fiscal space and maintain public sector employment. Now, because Jack Brown, who works at a construction company outside the government, is not on government pay slip, you understand? So he's not in my fiscal container. So giving him a bond, though his investment doesn't help me on the fiscal. So there is something else designed for that kind of, for John Brown. But for this particular purpose, it's public sector workers because we're trying to redo the mix of our fiscal container. It makes sense? So that's one, tradability is a feature. Another feature is that this bond is also protected from further debt restructuring, any. You remember back in the last debt restructuring we had, which concluded just in December, the savings bonds that person had at the central had taken up were not included in restructuring. These will not be included in any future restructuring at all. But let me make it clear, not that we expect another restructuring. First of all, that restructuring is very uncommon in countries, but more important, there are always reasons what leads to that. Why did we have the first debt restructuring in the first place? Because in general, the country couldn't pay it way. It could not sustain itself in current position. And I don't know if any of your economics, but I make it simple. I refer them as the 4 horsemen of the economic apocalypse, like how you have in the Bible. When these fellas exist, you're going to be leading to debt restructuring or else unstable position. You've got to do something. Back at the start of the BERT program, the Barbados Recovery and Transformation Program, we had all 4 horsemen of the economic apocalypse. You won't find that in any Google term, though I created it. The first one is debt. Debt to GDP was 176%, strangling the life out of the economy. What do you mean by strangling the life of the economy? Not that you have the infamous status of being the 3rd highest indebted country in the world, but what do you mean by strangling the life of the economy? It's just that if your own household, your debt was too much relative to your income. Out of every dollar government received in taxes, it was paying 67 cents in debt, which meant it left how much? 33 cents to do everything else. Pay wages, education, health, construction, the roads, everything. And that's why you find, even with all best intentions, government was unable to do much infrastructure development because they just didn't have the money. You have to service it there. And it become a vicious cycle because so that horseman of economic apocalypse was fixed via debt restructuring and improving the fiscal position, carefully managing our debt, down to where at the end of March it was 118% of GDP, no longer having the infamous title of the 3rd highest indebted country in the world. Now manageable on our debt downward trajectory to 60%, which is international standards by 2033. The second horseman of the apocalypse is what? Reserves. Especially in a country that depends, everything we do, every day a survey in this room, mostly everything you have on your person is imported. We hope to shift that, but that's the reality of a small developing country. So you need reserves. And back in beginning started BERT program, the reserve was 420 million. Less than 3 or 4 weeks. It means that if we don't get any money, we could survive for 3 or 4 weeks before the exchange rate disappear. I don't know if you're old enough to remember when Guyana and Jamaica rate slip. They always slide. They never stop sliding at that. But nonetheless, not only did we have 420 million, but we had debt payment coming, Swiss Bank, Citibank in July. We had hurricane season approaching, and we had all payments in November, December. No way we could survive. In fact, if you translate that position now, before COVID, we anticipate that from March to the end of December this year, we're going to lose almost $700 million in reserves. Back then, we didn't have $700 million to lose. So we're in a better position. In fact, the reserves I just told you earlier was, hey boy, tell me, quick. 1.7 billion, right? And then, I mentioned we're going to IMF, and we're getting how much? How much? 90 million US plus another 49 million. You're paying attention. Very good. So we can be up about just above 2 billion. So that horseman apocalypse was fixed. Debt fixed, reserve fixed. When the reserves fixed and debt fixed, so that means, you know what it means? People looking on now saying, wait, things looking stable. Government handling business. I can now invest so you can get economy coming back. The third horseman in your pocket is the fiscal position. Prior, and I mentioned this, prior to the BERT program, which started back in August 2018, the fiscal for the last 10 years, deficit averaged 7%. Now, conventional wisdom says a deficit should be no more than 3%, because you need a little development to borrow, to develop, and hopefully put it in something that gives you a return to pay it down. But when it averages 7%, you're really in trouble. You got to keep borrowing to fix that. And I mentioned that is why you get a vicious cycle. You see, you got to borrow, your debt high, you pay more for your debt. I think if you recall correctly, before we restructured our debt, the Credit Suisse loan was 11.7%. We were paying on that. You know, 11.7% on that? All right. Exactly a killer. And you get this vicious cycle where you're slipping, you got nothing to hold on to. Right? So we fixed those three horsemen. Now the debt, our fiscal position, first of all, arrears was $1.9 billion in arrears. All that was paid off. We know just over 200 owing to Barbados Public. So you're paying your bills on time. You're not running arrears. You're running a small surplus and a large primary surplus that used to pay down debt. So your house is in order. That's why we say we don't want to worsen the fiscal space and destroy the fiscal position for a shock. We need to manage it properly. So those three horsemen of the apocalypse was fixed. So therefore, those are the precursors or the reasons why people get in problems and have to restructure debt. And because those fundamentals are fixed, not only do we believe we recover from COVID, we know, because if you do it in the human body, if you got high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, and COVID hit you, what happened? You cock up, you hurt up. But more importantly, it will take you much longer to recover than if you were a person with low blood pressure, low debt to GDP, low cholesterol, nice flow of the blood, the reserves flowing properly, and no diabetes, fiscal position stable. Then you can recover, right? Same thing with the Barbados economy. So we just got to hold through this and find a way to manage it. In fact, that is why Moody's recently awarded Barbados an outlook of stable, while downgrading and changing other countries' outlook to negative, because the fundamentals remain intact. So I say that to say all of that to come back to tell you that the chances of us restructuring this bond is basically absent. The final point on this bond I mentioned, feature, so I mentioned the features, 5% for 4 years, interest paid every 6 months, fully tradable, no withholding tax, protected and immune from restructuring. And the final point is that after 4 years, they have a redeem feature that if you want to retrade any, government stand ready to buy it from you, right? So you understand, everybody understand so far what we're talking about? Let me give you an example. Imagine a worker who is taking home his net pay, and we have it in different scales. Now, the question is, how much of your salary do you put into a bond? What's the default? Of course, we have to come up for planning purposes some default. So we recognize that persons that earn below $36,000 are likely, or $3,000 a month, likely to spend most of their salary meeting their normal monthly needs. So we will say you will get your full salary in cash, no bonds will be allocated. However, BOSS, what stands for? Optional. So this is truly optional. So if you decide that you have enough change extra that you can afford to invest in a bond, 200, 300, 400, you will indicate that at the beginning of the program, and that will be accommodated. The next band will be between $36,000 and $50,000 per year. And I must say, these exclude any travel allowances. This is net after tax and NS is taken out. So that's between $36,000 and $50,000, which is between $3,000 and $4,167 per month, net of NAS, net of tax. You will get 7% of your salary, that amount, in bonds, and 93% in cash, direct into the bank. Now, if you're between $50,000 and $100,000, which is between $4,166 and $8,333 per month net, your bond allocation initially will be 12%, and you will take home 88% in cash in the bank. And if you are over $100,000, which is over $8,333 per month, your bond take home will be 17%, and you will get 83% in cash. Now, what's the offer? Truly optional. In other words, in any of those categories, you're in the category that gives you 7%, you could say, look, I can't handle 7% this month, I can only handle 5%. That will be accommodating. I can't handle 7%, I can only handle 3%. That will be accommodating. Right? And you can opt for none, opt for some, or come in later. Truly optional. So those are the bands. Now, in terms, by way of example, imagine a person working for $3,000, and this is in Z category. Yes? $3,392 on average per month, net of taxes and NIS. That's their take-home pay. That is what they found in they were seeing in their bank account in January, February, March, April, May. They will get in June. But come from July, we are saying you will still get that amount, that worker. But in this case, because they're between $3,000 and $4,100, 7% is allocated in terms of a bond and 93 in terms of cash. So that means that for the July period now, the 93% is roughly $3,159.29. That goes an instruction from the Ministry of Public Service to the Treasury saying, pay Mary Jane this 93%, which is $3,159.29 in cash. And the instructions goes from the Ministry of Public Service to the Central Bank saying, credit Mary Jane bond account with $237.85. That's the remaining piece. Some of those magnitude, right? Mary Jane get two statements. Her net pay is still the same, $3,392 and change. Same, but the difference is two different sources. 93% came from Treasury, and then she have a bank statement, a bond statement from the Central Bank saying this is your bond account for $237. Let's round it at $237. August come round, Mary Jane happy. She can save another, what, 7%. So $3,159 again goes down to her bank, Broad Street, Bank A, Credit Union, wherever it is, and her bond account increases by another $337. Now, the first bond she put in July will mature 4 years from now, but pay interest every 6 months. So she can get her interest on that $237 in January next year, 6 months, then in July, then January, then July, then January to 2024, July, and then she get back that bond. So over the 18 months, Mary Jane puts in 18 separate bonds, each value at $237. Now, quick math will say that at the end of 18 months, Mary Jane will just got $4,208 roughly saved in her bond account, right? Now that will earn her interest over a period, paying at 6-month interval for $856.07. You with me? Now if Mary Jane had taken that same $4,208 and put it, and 29 cents, and put it in the bank account, what would she earn? Let me tell you, $25.06. Not only that, the bank charges, which is $5 a month for 48 months, is $240, which means Mary Jane will come out owing the bank $214. She ain't getting back the $42.08. You follow me? So in terms of an investment vehicle, this is a no-brainer. It makes absolute sense. Now, how did I save space? Well, how did the government save space? You remember I'm keeping vision, my 40-foot container, right? Mary Jane salary is $3,392 and change. I only record $3,159 in the bucket, in my barrel, because the other $237 was paid to her via what? A bond. Who takes it up? It's bond account Central Bank. So I got that space now that I can put that $237 into capital work. That's the idea. And you could do that at every different level. So the only issue that we had to solve, and which we have solved, we believe, is, and I must say this plan evolved over many consultations with the unions, and back and forth, trying to come out to solve. The hardest part was the liquidity. Suppose the worker wants his money now, or she. Suppose Mary Jane wants her money now. Okay? Mary Jane said, well, I know I entitled to get 7%, which is $237. Truth be told, I'm still paying for the net set that I get from courts, That can done in 4 months. I'm still paying for the piece of car that you credit union give me money to buy. So right now, I can't put down anything. Maybe in 4 months, right? The agent said, well, I want, at the beginning of July, beginning of the period, she gets a form from public service saying, these are what are allocated to you in bonds, and which is 237. Remember the number? 237. And the 3159.29 is allocated to you in cash. How do you want your bonds? Do you want some converted? You want no bonds? 50%? So Mary Jane said, listen, right now I can't handle the bonds. Don't give me the bonds. So she want all her money. What her net is? $3,392. She want all that in cash. What happens? Sometime before payday, maybe a week or two, Ministry of Public Service send instructions to the Treasury, pay Mary Jane how much? Not $333. $3,159, the 93%. Okay? Then instructions go on to Central Bank saying, Mary Jane, credit Mary Jane bond account with $237.08. With me? So, but for the instructions to the Central Bank, instantaneously, sell Mary Jane bond and give her the cash. When Mary Jane going borrow, she look at her bank account, she see the total amount equals $3,392, her full salary. The difference, she's seen two sources. One coming from the Treasury for $3,159.29 in change, and the other coming from the Central Bank for $237. She got her full salary in cash to meet her commitments, paying the courts, paying the credit union, paying who she want to pay, right? The government still save on the fiscal space? Yes or no? Did the government issue a bond? Yes, government issue a bond in Mary Lou's name. Who has the bond right now? Central Bank bought it immediately, so it's not on government book, so government saved the space. And then John Brown, who is a private sector fellow, who can't get the bonds because he don't work in public sector, goes to the Central Bank and buys the bonds. And now he earns the interest instead of Mary Jane. Or credit union goes on and sign on and buy the bond. Or financial institution signs on and buy the bond. Right? Sorry about that. With me? So government still have a fiscal space. Different scenario. Next 2 months now, Mary Jane finished with courts. Don't pay for that then it's set. Right? She only got the car loan. So she still can't afford the 237, but she can afford 100. Right? Because she should pay courts 100 for that then it's set. Agree? So she changed her instructions to the Ministry of Public Service here from November, take out 100 for bonds. In other words, what she's literally saying is that I don't want a 237 in bonds. I want how much? 100. How are we going to handle that? Simple, smooth. Ministry of Public Service send instructions to the Treasury, pay Mary Jane the 93% in cash. Same way, $3,159.29 in cash. Send instructions to the Central Bank, credit Mary Jane bond account with $237.08, that amount, right? At the same time, sell $137.08 and give her the cash. How much she got left in bank account? She's saving $100 in bonds. She get 93 cents from government, and her bank account, she got the other 137. Her wishes are solved. The government save on the fiscal space? Yes, government issue a bond, correct? To the tune of 237, fiscal space impacted. In fact, if you follow me through this analysis, it is clear that it's truly optional because government have no incentive to push anyone in any direction because irrespective of the choice, government still get a fiscal space. So you can truly opt in it if you can afford because it is just a good savings instrument. You follow me? Now, so that's changing into liquidity. At the start, Mary Jane don't pay the money because she keep getting her thing we call on par. Par is your bond is 100, you get $100. There's no charge. On payday, she has her money. But Mary Jane may accumulate 3 or 4 bonds in her account at the Central Bank. And then 6 months later decide, you know, I need this. I need some cash. I go, I'll take my young fella, my young boy, their boy, my son to Disney World because we've been locked down too long and everything open up. Right? For me to say that's not a good reason to take out bonds. So, but bear my example for now, even though it may be is not right have financial advice to use the bonds for. But the point is, can you get them? Yes. You simply have many options. You can call Central Bank. And Central Bank, I must say, is playing a very large role here because we recognize that there's a need for financial literacy, not only among the public sector, but among the general population, and that's being started soon, financial clinics in different parts of the country. But Central Bank is playing a role so that no employee or public worker can be disadvantaged. And say, sell my bonds, sell half my bonds, sell 3 of my bonds, sell 4 of my bonds. And again, credit unions, individuals from the public, the private sector, financial, stand ready to buy it. Now, because you have held the bonds for some time and you've earned some interest on them, you may or may not get them at par. But demand and supply must pay. If a lot of people want your bond, you may be argue for par on $1 or cent or 2 more per 100 per dollar, or you may have to pay 98 cents on $1 or 93, 95, depending. But you can easily convert them. You can also take your bonds and arrange with the credit union to buy them. Credit union benefit because they get to invest in the instrument, earning their 5%. Right now, all they can invest at the moment probably is put the money in commercial bank and earn 0.15. Their benefit, by they give you the money, you pay your loan, you do what you got to do, but their revenues improve, shares improve, dividends increase, and members benefit. Or you can find, someone, find a family member, an uncle, a cousin who have some change on the bed that want to buy your bonds, and y'all make an arrangement, but you got to make it legal now. You got to transfer your bonds. So you go to the Central Bank website, you download the transfer of title forms, both of you sign it and fill information. Your priest, pastor, notary public, notarize it to make sure the legal transactions that you had a gun to nobody had. You upload the form, and immediately the bonds change title from you to the person they sell it to. So many ways in which you can improve and you can cash in your bonds. I'll stop here at the moment so that we can get any questions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Greenidge. So you have heard, and you have appeared to be a very attentive audience. The opportunity now is yours to ask any questions about any concerns that you may have, anything you're not clear about, any comment that you want to make on Dr. Greenidge's presentation. And while those who are here get prepared, may I inquire from my Zoom friends, do you have any questions for us? So just stand by. I would want to give the opportunity to those who are here to be first to pose their questions or have interaction. Okay, Zoom.
What happens if government's financial position is worse at the time of the maturity of the bonds?
And I may just inform those who are here that we have 283 persons following us electronically.
Thank you. So that is highly unlikely to be the case because remember that I told you that we're operating within a fiscal space that helps us remain prudent and can pay our bills. I mean, we've had a lot of demand from persons wanting to put in extra, put in lump sum, even from pensions, etc. But we are mindful that too far east is west. And we want to make sure we're not, when we do our economic planning, we look 3, 4, 5, 6 years ahead. In fact, we're looking down to 2033 to make sure the debt converges to 60%. So all measures are in place to ensure that the bond is repaid. In fact, we are repaying bonds that came due just as much as this July. Yeah, so there's no chance of that happening. There's legal document, bonds will repay, financial position will improve. And that's why we're protecting our fundamentals too. Because the worst you can do in a position, which is kind of what happened at the last crisis hit in 2008-9, is it began on a process where you commit to things that have a long hold on your financing. You commit to bring increasing employment, for example, or you commit to things. Whereas notice this program has a finite lifetime. The projects that the money will go into are finite. You don't paint schools every day forever. You don't fix roads every day. They are finite, they are one time, they keep you, they get the growth, and then you spin off into something else.
Any questions yet? In that case, Zoom me again.
Well, we have two. Is the limit one bond per month, or can a person purchase more than one bond in any given month?
So what you're in fact getting is a portion of your salary in bond, the value of that salary. So if you save 1,000, it's one bond. If the small portion of your salary being paid in bond is 500, it's still one bond. If it is 250, it's still one bond. If it's $50, it's still one bond. So bond is just that amount at that point in time. So over a period, the worker will receive 18 bonds.
Good afternoon. If a person is retiring during they sign up for the bond, can they get a part of that retirement as a bond?
You're referring to the gratuity?
Yeah, the gratuity.
So at the moment, these things are being considered. As I mentioned, we have an envelope of target of 100 million. We have to wait at least a month and see what the demand is before we can, because you don't want to overextend yourself, and then in there, the same issue, you have too much debt, etc. So these are being considered within the economic team. Prime Minister will eventually make a final decision on these. But for that person, they continue to earn until the point of retirement, and they still have those bonds earning them some cash even after they retire that they can do whatever they want with. Yeah.
So we're now considering whether...
The gratuity part, yes.
Yeah, the gratuity
Or even part of their pension. Because we have a lot of demand for that also.
Okay.
But we're mindful that we want to make sure that, and government will be coming again at some point in time with other instruments, like a pandemic solidarity bond, which will help raise financing also for NIS, etc. So there'll be opportunities for you to put your money into, or a retired person coming soon.
The instrument for permission to take the bond, there will be a deadline.
Sorry?
The instrument, whereas I will say
Yeah.
a deadline
Yeah, be a deadline.
within a given month. So we're still working on that too?
It could be within, to opt in or out. You can decide at the beginning you want to do the full 18 months, or you can decide you're doing this for 6 months and then not again. You can paint it however you want. But equally, more importantly, whatever you say now, you can always change down the line if circumstances change. So remember Kevin talked about if down the line you finish paying your car payment and you want change, or if you had said you were taking the bond for the full 18 months but somebody get ill. I'm not in the Disneyland example. Somebody get ill, or somebody needs medication, or somebody needs education they want to do something online that the government of Barbados is not paying for. You may need to get your money, you understand? So you have the option, however which way you want. So there's some people who I know already can do all 18 months. There's some people who say, I'm opting out, I really need the cash, I would love to do this, but I can't afford it. I got 4 children. You understand? And I am at the baller, and the father not supporting all 4, so I'm at the baller. So the key is flexibility for any and every scenario. And that's what we're doing. And what you're getting potentially is 18 4-year bonds. Whether you choose to take one, all of one, all, some of all, none of all, it's your choice. Okay? But we're facilitating that way, because we have a credit union movement or pensioners or other public servants who willing to take up the slack if you realistically cannot afford to take it up. And then you may come into the same father who wasn't supporting me, they say, he's supporting them now. In which case you say, all right, I want back. I said I didn't want the bonds, but in month 5, give me $150 or $200 in bonds every month. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when we talked about savings, it's because it gives you a mechanism. Remember at the beginning I talked about what you don't see, you don't miss. Is a true thing. I hope the young lady here remembers that, because that is the best way to train yourself into not spending all that you have.
Okay, I'm speaking about the instrument, whereas on a monthly basis, I say to you, take $500 this next month. What is my deadline to give you that instruction?
Okay, so public service is working that out. We know that we want to get, Central Bank would like the information by the 8th of the month. We're now meeting this week to see when you would need to give Central Bank. Ironically, DG Atkins is coming back in, but it will probably be before the end of the month before. So for July, it would be for the end of June. We're going to try for. For August, it would be the end of July. Because remember, after public service, your head of department and public service gets it, it has to go to Central Bank to process. And be ready by the time payday comes around, which is usually what? Anywhere between the 23rd, 24th, 25th of the month?
25th.
So really and truly, from the time you finish the last payday, you should be thinking about what you want to do for the next one. But there is a cutoff point for the month. And I think one of the doctors in the previous session was kind enough to raise it with us to remind people that just because the payday hasn't come doesn't mean I can change at 24 or 48 hours before and say it. You would have to wait for the next month because we still need time to process your request.
Okay.
So like with everything else, when you got somebody baking great cake at Christmas and I got the orders and they well, they can't take any more orders because the timeline gone. Not because they're wicked, but because they have to get the fruit, they have to get the flour, they have to make sure they got enough ovens in which to bake. Same with government. We have to send the instructions from public service to Central Bank to make sure that everything gets to you in time and good order. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from on the group?
I have one. Can I convert my interest payable into more bonds, and will this attract the same interest rate?
Can you convert the interest you receive on the bond into more bonds? No.
Yes, please.
No, because your bonds issue at pay. When you get your interest, you put it in the and you can put it. It will be sent to your account at the bank or the credit union. But interestingly, one question and a comment that came up in the previous session was that perhaps the credit union will work. The union itself will be looking to see if there's a particular instrument that they can work the device where you can put your interest in and still earn a little something on that too. But to get more bonds, no. You can take it, have your interest, and see if any public servant has given up their bonds on the central bank or try to buy from another public servant directly.
I have another question from a Zoom participant. I'll try to do it justice. I have my CLICO insurance policy already in government bonds. Will the same principle apply? And can that share be divided with another on purchasing bonds on their behalf? And can these bonds be transferred?
Not going to fool you. I can't remember if the CLICO bonds are strip bonds or not. But if the person who's on Zoom gives you their email, we can check for them after this meeting and either email or WhatsApp and get back to them. Because some of the bonds that the government gave, some are strip bonds. We know that for sure, but some are not. So I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Okay, to conclude
What we should probably add is what we are doing here, as I indicated earlier, will do something to start a secondary market. So in this situation, a few months from now, you will probably find a willing buyer for those CLICO bonds. The question is at what, whether it will be at 100 cents in the dollar on par, or if it will be below par, probably below par because it's a longer bond, it's more institutions that are looking at it, and therefore the market is not going to be another person like you or me usually, but most of those CLICO bonds are likely to be institutional investors who will buy from you. But that's why a secondary market, developing a secondary market is important. And anybody ever went to a used shop or a garage sale? So in normal stores you go in and buy, but a secondary market is no different. So this is not the bank, this is not the financial institutions in the original process, but people will come along and say, you know what, you got something that I want bid for it. Depending on how many people want it, determines the price of the instrument. If a lot of people don't want it, the price can tend to be low. If a lot of people want it, say, you want to give me 92 cents in the dollar? But my man over here want to give me 95. And this other man want 96. So everybody got a chance to either equal his or let me go along. So it's just carrying us in a different environment, but it's no different from all other forms of buying and selling. Each environment has its own rules. We get to learn the rules and know how and what those rules are. And that's why when we talk about financial literacy, I want y'all to be as strong, us as a country, to be literally capable of dominating the rest of the Caribbean in terms of our financial literacy and our financing decisions. So we're not only looking at Barbados, but we're looking at options in the rest of the region once things start to pick up. But remember, everything starts how? Small. And you build and you build and you build and you build.
Okay, I am taking it that by your silence. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Destry, Barbados Workers Union. Just a quick question. What is the process exactly for, that's better? For if an individual wanted to purchase bonds directly from the central bank website, I understand you go on and you download a form, you get it signed. But in terms of the transfer that has to happen for the bonds, the actual purchase of the bonds, and then is there stopping an individual from going on every month to see if there are bonds available to be purchased?
Right, so two things. The first, the example I give you, download the form, is if you already identify somebody you want to buy the bonds from and you're in an agreement. So it's just a matter of you are transferring cash between you. The only thing in Central Bank is to get the name right, a transfer of title, and therefore you download the form, fill it out, upload it. But the other example, you actually buying.
I'm not hearing you well when you speak to the mic. Could you speak low?
Can you hear me better now?
It's just the echo. I'm not really.
Okay, better here? All right.
Yeah, I can hear.
No, in the example you mentioned earlier, that I mentioned to you, where you download the form from the Central Bank website and then change it, the title, to change the title, that is only when you have already identified a buyer, like, or someone that you want to buy bonds from. So if I have some bonds you want to buy from me, we agree how much I'm going to pay you for it. You download the form from the Central Bank website, fill it in, that is just to change the title from me to you. And we get a notary public, a priest, a pastor, notify that, to notarize that, and we upload it, right? But if you want to buy bonds see what's available to just buy from the market, we are encouraging persons, the Central Bank is going to put a portal, open a portal where you can go any point in time, register your name and your interest in how much you want. So you will say, maybe I am interested to buy up to 5,000 should they become available. And once they become available, Central Bank will have a way now to prioritize on how they distribute them. Indeed, given we mentioned earlier that we probably want to give priority to also public sector workers who are looking for buy from that. But that's how you buy it. And in addition to that, you just call them or you check every month and you ask it from that perspective. You can even ask your credit union to inquire on your behalf. But the easiest way is to register early or just contact the central bank and find out, tell them you're interested in buying bonds and how much you want to buy. So when they become available, because remember, to make this thing seamless in terms of transition, it means that because as soon as Mary Jane wanted her money, she had to get it. So central bank buys immediately, and then looking to sell it as much soon as possible. Answer your question?
Yes, and I understood without the mic.
Oh, with mic, all right. You always tell me I got a loud voice.
If there are no other questions from the floor at this point, we will take another one from the Zoom.
And this public officer wants to know, what would be the alternative if the majority of public officers opt not to participate in the program?
The alternative is that private sector people, banks, and credit unions will hold the bonds. Remember, let me explain, remember the process I explained. That's, simplicity is always key to understanding. Let's assume there's just one public sector in all of Barbados, one worker, Mary Jane. When Mary Jane said she didn't want her $237 in bonds, you remember what happened? Government gave her the 93% in cash, and government issued the bond in her name. So the government still got the fiscal space, but then the central bank bought the bond and gave her the cash and sell it to someone. So if everyone in the extreme circumstance, which is so extreme that it's unlikely because this is such an attractive instrument that once you understand it, there's no reason why you want all these other liquidity issues. So in that case, what public sector persons give up, another person will get the whole and enjoy the benefits of it.
If I may just add to that, because there is so much interest in the bonds, we are happy and lucky that there is potentially a buyer for most of the public servants who do not want to happen. And in everything I start from a worst case scenario and work back. But I'm also satisfied, as we've heard, and I said in the previous session, one of the unions who met yesterday, for example, when they finished polling their members who would take the bonds, 92% said they would opt for them. So we expect that there is a healthy appetite for them, but we also recognize that in addition to the savings benefits, remember what I said at the beginning, is a win-win, because it not only helps government with the fiscal space, it also helps the credit union movement and other entities get a better rate of return than they're getting from the banks. And in addition to that, it also helps us enfranchise Barbadians so that Barbadians can be owners and not tenants in their own country. Against that background of enfranchisement, against that background of the attractiveness of the interest, against that background of the solidarity to be your brothers and sisters keeper to make sure that people who now not working can get a job in one of the capital projects. We expect, reasonably so, that there's a large number of people who will say yes to it because it really is a win-win. Okay? And because you can change along the route, it gives you the flexibility so you don't lose anything. And that's how people generally make decisions. What do I stand to lose? What do I stand to gain? Okay? Thank you.
And I just have one final. Who reside overseas take part in this arrangement, and do you have any idea how this would be organized?
So the bonds are, your bond account will be held at the central bank. It's all electronic, it's all digital. Just like any Barbadian overseas can have an account in a bank in Bridgetown or a credit union account and can get monthly statements and make decisions to take out money or inject money, is the same thing. Any overseas person can go on Central Bank website and bid to buy bonds. They would then, if they're successful, have a bond account. And at any moment, they can decide to sell their bonds and trade in, or even buy more bonds. So it's just like that. It's not a physical paper that you will have moving around.
Sorry, and it is for that reason that we recognize that if the demand really is tremendous, there may well be an opportunity for the bonds to be trading at par or above par. Because if more people want it, because where they come from, they can't get a 5% interest rate, but they can get one here in Barbados, they may say, look, tell the brother who is a public sector worker, or as Kevin said, may just be that they go on the central bank website and bid and send in the money when the time has come. So because once you bid, you have to pay for it when the time comes in order to be able to ensure that central bank then is not out of pocket because it has bought your bond because you said that you wanted cash.
Let me just add one more thing. As the Prime Minister spoke, you remind me to mention that Prime Minister said you can't get these interest rates much places. But really what happened here is part of the whole model of economic enfranchisement and empowerment. Because government do pay those interest rates, but not just to its people. It pay them to people, CDB, external bondholders that we borrow money from. So in the last debt restructuring, the ones that finished in December, we were paying 6.25% on those bonds. The last loan we got from CDB was 4.5%. And so, yeah, so by paying its workers money that it's literally, India government is borrowing some money from you in temporary, the worker, and give you an interest to compensate you for that, so you make some money to do capital works to further the economy. Usually, it borrows from the development bank, pay them interest, and use the money for capital works. This way is empowering individual persons to help in their own development. And the interest rate is not outside of what we usually do in terms of borrowing money to do development work. Okay?
But remember, why we're borrowing from you and not a bank is because we from recurring expenditure and put it where? Under capital. If I could just go and borrow, I would add to the money I'm spending on wages. The 1.2 billion, 800 central government, 400 state-owned enterprises. I would just go and add and borrow, but that doesn't help me. I need to move that down from 1.2 to 1.1 and move my capital works up by 100 at the same time. So my
Sorry, Prime Minister, the respondent on Zoom would not have just heard your response.
Sorry. I was just saying that it is not an issue as to we can go and borrow from anywhere, but that isn't what is helping us. What is helping us is moving expenditure from recurring to capital. So government's wage bill is 806 million for central government and roughly about 400 million for the state-owned enterprises. So if I could go and borrow anywhere, just increase it, but I don't, and that's not the issue. I need to be able to reduce my wage bill by 100 million, my goods and services by probably about 40 to 50, and then increase my capital works by 100 million as well, okay? Because I have to operate within that, what Kevin called it, the 40-foot container, all right? So that's what's happening. And ultimately, why am I doing it? Because I believe that once I can keep the heads of Barbadians above water in the next 18 months, we will be able to, at a future date, be able to pay you back what we're borrowing. And why do we need to do this? Because if unemployment moves from 9.5% to 30%, Barbados is not going to be a pleasant place, because how are you going to feel knowing that you're eating everybody else in the gap, not eating when the day comes? How are you going to feel when a fella just decides, I can't take it no more, or a girl decides she can't take it no more, and go and do something that she or he might not otherwise do? So what are we dealing? Remember, early on I started talking about the difference between wants and needs, that this is a time now for us to focus on need and not just what we want. Of course I want enough things, but I know now that the enough things that I want, I can't get now. So let me deal with what I need. Today is the 2nd of June, 2020. I would like us to meet on the 2nd of June, 2021 and make sure that everybody who I see around here is still capable with their head above water. Will we have been able to buy a new car? Probably not. Will we have been able to go on a vacation somewhere and spend a lot of money? Probably not. Will we be able to do other things that we would like to do? Probably not. but will we have done the things that we need to do, that we eat, that we keep ourselves clean, that we keep ourselves safe, that we keep our people in our gap? Because remember, Barbados is a place where you look out for your family and you look out for your neighbors. And once we can do those few things well, learning and reading as much as we can, cleaning up around the place, not just in our houses, but the roads, the gullies, the beaches, all of those things, fixing as much roads as we can, laying as much water mains as we can, building as much houses as we can, and then working with the private sector for them to do the things, the hotels that need to fix up and come back better later in the year, or the people who need training, or as we said, move all of that paper that causing people sinus problems and try to be able to have more digital environment so that the workers are not having to deal with files that just full of dust when the day comes. If we can do those things while we on partial pause, because that's what the world is on, partial pause, then we will have come back stronger and better, ready to meet a new environment and to start to grow again. Yeah, every day is not a sunny day, but we can live through this.
Okay.
Co-chair, if I may, just two last questions in the chat. How exactly would this is another Foreign Service officer, how exactly would the allocation of bonds work for officers working in missions abroad? And perhaps we can repeat that response. And the final one, if my default bond payment is 12%, may I opt to commit 5 or 10% instead?
So starting with the last question, the answer is yes. You could commit 5, 10, 1, 7, 2, 0, whatever.
Once you start getting 20, I think they have to cap it.
Yeah. So yes, it's fully optional in that regard. And then you may change your mind and decide I was committing 5, I can do 7, I can do 10. In terms of the Foreign Service personnel, those are also on government book. They're in the 40-foot container in our fiscal space. So they are also entitled as a public sector worker for the allocated amount. And again, the same way they receive a salary now, no difference. Just that they will have a bond account at the central bank at their disposal. So your answer is yes.
Any other questions on the Zoom?
That was the final one. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And it seems as though there are no other questions coming from the floor, which indicates to me that you clearly understand and you are entirely comfortable. Now, that puts a responsibility on you when you start to discuss the BOSS program with your colleagues and comrades, that you will now be able to speak from an informed position, and you are therefore able to dispel any fluff and misinformation that may be out there. Added to your responsibility is to communicate in very clear, unambiguous terms to your union what your position is and what you would want the leadership of your union to see. We have reached that point, and I will now invite my co-chair, Senator Tony Moore, to make some comments and this one too, and bring us to the adjournment.
I like it when they fight over me. All right, good evening to everyone joining us here in the gym and also those who are joining us via Zoom. I think that it is safe to say at the conclusion of this session and the previous two we have, that the meetings have demonstrated to us that there is a significant interest in understanding the different aspects of the plan that is being proposed so that public servants can make an informed decision. I would therefore encourage you to encourage others to join us, because the only way that workers are going to be informed to make the best decision in their interest is if they understand the details of the plan. So encourage your colleagues at work. I'm sure you would have found the session useful. So encourage them tomorrow to join us, not necessarily physically here if they can't make it or if they have COVID fears, but that they would use the streaming opportunity that exists to follow the sessions on Facebook, on Zoom, send their questions to us. There's no question that is too simple, or even if we have answered it several times over, we will do it because it is important for us to ensure that each officer in the public sector, whether those interested in converting bonds, keeping part of their bonds, that they are fully understanding the options that are available and why it is so significant that the proposal before them has as its underpinning option, the Barbados Optional Savings Plan, because that is what it is. So we have come to the end of this particular session, and we look forward to the engagement tomorrow. The Barbados Workers Union, the National Union of Public Workers, I'm sure CTUSAB and all their affiliates will remain open to you for any questions of clarification that you would have for us following these sessions. These sessions concluding tomorrow evening does not mean that it will represent the last occasion that you have to clarify anything that you don't understand. I'm sure I can safely speak for all the unions to say that we will remain available to you, our members, to clarify and seek clarification if we ourselves cannot explain every detail. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the Prime Minister as Minister responsible for the public service, and also the Ministry of Finance for initiating these sessions, recognizing the usefulness of not only making decisions because we think that they are good for people, but engaging people and allowing them the opportunity to know why we think it's a good offer, and the very fact that it has received broad consensus and principle from your leaders in the trade union movement and is being commended to you is just testimony of the fact that we think it is something worth your consideration. So spread that message, and we look forward to seeing you here again via Zoom, coming here again via, or joining us via Zoom if you think that you need to come back because there's something that you have forgotten and it represents a burning question that you think we should answer. So with that said, I just encourage all of you to be safe wherever you are going. Hopefully it is home and not back to work. That's what I meant. All right, curfew's upon us. All right, good evening, everybody. Yeah, the meeting is adjourned.
You were supposed to say that.